tools and stuff. And so there's plenty more options past this, but kind of what we ended up focusing on was the sort of like more autonomous research things. So the kind of three that we deep dived on are Sakana's new AI scientist, yes, and then Stanford Oval's Storm, and then GPT Researcher, which I would say Storm and GPTR are kind of fairly similar. Like Storm's the research prototype, and then GPTR is the we tried to productize it sort of thing. And then Sakana has their own sort of kind of differently geared kind of thing with the general. So that's the intro, I suppose. Kick it off from there. Let's see. My recordings. All.
Oh, yeah, Rob, you see my screen okay?
I can. Are you? You're like a little muffled to me. Can everybody else hear you okay?
It might also be because I'm sick, so my voice is muffled.
No, you are pretty echoey at the moment. I don't know if you have a different mic or headphone set up that you can hear.
I could try something else. You. Does it sound better if after turning off noise suppression? Does that make a difference? Okay, that was it.
A little bit.
Switching over to this.
Yeah, I can. I can. It is understandable. Oh, better without sound suppression. There's stuff we can do. Yeah, it's understandable. It's not like a huge deal. They are able to fix it with minimal effort. That appreciate.
Does it sound better now?
Much better. Yes.
Much
Yes.
better. Okay. Also, whatever these are, I'll stop using them.
Perfect.
Okay. So I am sharing my screen. I'm just gonna keep this open as is so we have access to our speaker notes. So yeah, we looked over some research agents. The first one I'm quickly going to introduce here is the AI scientist. As you can see here with its flow, the entire idea is that it has an idea generation stage, an experimental iteration stage where it like writes the code itself and like does the experiments, creates the plots, and then actually generates a paper. So like a crazy example I have here, like this is just entirely generated by AI, which is beautiful on one level. So yeah, this one is the only one out of the three we're talking about that incorporates like actual code in the execution of the experiments. The key difference here with the versus the other is this one actually tries to do some baseline experiments that it plans, whereas the other two are more just writing research papers based on what it can find. And this also has like a review process, which I found interesting. You can see here, for instance, the code, it has like this base using Neuro IPS form, which if you're in academia, you've probably seen this before. And here, for instance, is the pull form review. You can see the review instruction form. This is like the default, but of course, like you could modify that and then it has a different criteria for how it's doing.
I noticed
another thing I wanted
to play with it a little bit is that it seems like they lean heavily on templates, but they encourage you to modify them. And then you can also kind of break it apart a little bit where if you wanted to just use it to like review a bunch of papers, like and only use that part of it, opposed to like have, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. So like they have templates for how you can mix things together, but they basically allow you to, whether you want to use Claude or OpenAI, or whether you can just decide whether to use Semantic Scholar or not. So pretty open. Another thing I immediately have to say about AI scientists is this part over here, which I thought was just incredible. So when they were running it at one point, they noticed that AI scientists tried to edit its own code. This then led to the script endlessly calling itself. In another instance, an experiment that AI scientist was running, the code took too long to complete. So instead of trying to make the code faster, AI scientists just tried to extend the time period. I just had to share this. I read this. I just thought it was hilarious.
That's awesome.
I know. So yeah, they have a paper then on this because I guess there are AI safety implications on this. We could probably read up more on that. They recommend sandboxing the operating environment of the AI scientists because they apparently will do things like this. So let's go now, I guess, to the, in my opinion, less interesting of the three. So there's STORM, which stands for Synthesis of Topic Outlines for Retrieval and Multi-Perspective Question Asking. This came out of Stanford. So this is designed very specifically for Wikipedia style writing. It uses a two-stage approach. First, there's a pre-writing, which incorporates like this perspective guided question asking process, which is basically just agents asking questions to each other and accessing the web for references to create an outline. And then this hands it off to another agent to do the full length article writing. And yeah, this emphasizes generation of outlines before actually writing like the full article.
Yeah, I think
So
this
you can see here it's two stages.
The way that I think probably the sort of primary separator here is that it's very much like a two-stage thing. It does it has its section where it has like it sort of builds up its little cohort of multi agents to do all pre-writing steps, and then it creates kind of like a baseline and then ships that over to somebody to actually write the article. So it's got very much like then two.
Yeah. And this can be contrasted with GPT Researcher, which I guess at first brush seems to be similar. So there's two agents here. There's a planner that asks all of the research questions, and it hands off the plans and research questions. The researcher that then accesses the web and then synthesizes all this. This presumably should be making you think perplexity.ai. This one seems to be, from what I've read, although I don't have proof of this, is much more focused on flexible information retrieval. This part here, real-time progress monitoring, I'm not sure about, so I'm going to comment on that.
Yeah, I can actually offer some perspective.
Oh, yes.
The R has already sort of pre-handled, like you can just change an environment variable to add or drop, like Exa, Tavily, Google, et cetera, so you can more easily tweak the sources that it's pulling from. And I guess we should mention that Storm is a DSPy implementation. So it's modular in the way that DSPy is, but DSPy, like you have to kind of grok DSPy in order to really kind of understand how those pipelines work and how you should change them. It's complex than just like replacing an end bar is what I would say, which is kind of why I sort of separate them as like research implementation and then productized, because we're focused on UX on that side. And then there was the other thing where you said, what was that other? Streaming out for, yes. So
Yeah,
when I'm running the research report on GPT-R, it streams a little too fast. So I can't really parse a lot of the information just while I'm watching it. That, and he has an implementation that is supposed to let me like stop it and intervene, but I was having some trouble like getting that working. And Storm supposedly will be implementing that soon as well, but I didn't see an implementation yet in repo. And I think in order to actually get like quality output the first time with either of those, like be able to stop it is estimation.
Gotcha. Specifically, what difference does this make between the two?
So I pasted you output earlier where, let me see if I still should, it's thinking about, yeah, there we go. So yeah, so this is what it looks like when I just pasted it over in chat. When it's starting to conduct the research. So it will stream what it's doing the whole time. Whereas Storm, I know on their hosted implementation, they have a watch the brainstorming process button, but I haven't tried it. So let's actually try it quick and see that. Yeah, so I assuming that's what they're referencing there is the sort of streaming and watching what it's doing thing.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. Cool. So question I immediately had kind of was, when you look at, say, this pre-writing stage and GPT research planning stage, they seem to be pretty much similar. And in the researcher stage and the writing stage also seem to be similar. And they're synonymous to each other. So both systems do have these distinct stages that can be broadly categorized into research and writing and then synthesizing afterwards. But Storm, as we pointed out here, it does the pre-writing and the collecting and like accessing the web. This over here is a closed loop with agents communicating with each other. And this is what they call this perspective guided question asking with simulated conversations to create better research questions here with the outline references. So in a way, almost one is top down and one is bottom up, or is how I'm thinking about it. Whereas the planner, as you can see here, is not doing any editing of that. It's creating the research questions and hands that off to the next agent. And that's the one that actually is accessing the web queries and then synthesizing. Yes, but either way, both to emphasize domain, they're both multi-agent systems that are using domain-specific agents for different research processes, but they're just coming at it from a bit of a different way. Let's see, last two slides here. So research topic generation, as we've already mentioned, AI scientist uses a template-based approach with it to directly iterate on research ideas. Storm focuses on generating detailed articles through the structured two-stage process. So when it comes to research topic generation, this does come on like that first stage. GPT Researcher seems to implicitly support research topic generation in its planning stage, but focuses more on conducting in-depth research on defined topics. So this outputs, as we've already said, the AI scientist generates new research ideas, and this is the only one out of the three where this can be expressed properly in code, whereas the other two are generating like actual articles with citations and such.
I think I would. I like the way that Storm does the citations better because it does it very similar to Wikipedia, where you like right after a statement have the citation for it, which is really, really helpful when you're dealing with like a full report from a multi-agent system, because you can sort of quickly verify whether the referenced source actually has the information in it in order to make the statement that is like immediately preceding. But I find, at least with the hosted version, and I haven't really thoroughly tested, of course, but oftentimes the citations are like wrong. Like the source, there is information in those sources somewhere, but the link that it is provided is not the correct link in order to verify it. So it's like sort of a blessing and a curse. Whereas the output from something like GPT Researcher is, I'll actually like grab a snippet of an article here, where GPT Researcher will do a whole like section of an article, and then it will paste it over in chat. And then it will at the end sort of provide the source for that part of the article, which is helpful to some degree, but it takes a while to. Oh gosh, they don't want us researching, bro. We were doing too much. I know. It was probably the AI scientist. It just like it's like, okay, I gotta put these people off as true. Very true.
Yeah, you beat me to that joke.
Yep. Quick on the draw, baby. Quick on the draw.
Okay. Let's see, where were we? I think, yeah, you were talking about Storm and GPT Researcher, and you like Storm citations more.
1 second.
And yeah, you had something in chat that you wanted to specifically show.
Yes.
Wait, I'm not sure.
I pasted a snippet from an article. So yeah, so like Storm will cite inline, whereas GPT-R will sort of give you a blurb and then give you the article that it sort of did that blurbing from, essentially. And I think that I like Storm's more if it was more accurate, because I would like to be able to quickly verify the information, essentially. But as you can see, the GPT Researcher, and actually I would say Storm too, like GPT Researcher and Storm are both actually useful. Like if I need to sort of get a crash course in something really like within the next like 5 minutes, then I can just sort of toss a couple of questions at both of them and then get like a whole article that may be like halfway bullshit, but like in the parsing out of the bullshit, then I'll sort of grok the thing faster. So I find them both helpful to some extent.
What about AI scientist?
AI scientist, well, I think the main thing is I haven't actually like gotten that one up and running, and at least for the kind of work that I'm doing lately, a quick crash course overview of a lot of things on the like that are available on the internet is more actionable to me than like someone performing a research experiment. Um, but at least like in sort of thinking about it and thinking about the model, I think it's interesting. So both Storm and GPT-R only do research, but I think the action stage where Sakana sort of builds an experiment and then actually tries to run the code to sort of do a new thing rather than just read things that exist. I think there's room there in sort of like an AI enhanced sort of research and do a thing based on the research kind of pipeline to sort of combine the two principles. And then I also think that with Sakana, obviously, a lot of those papers are going to be pretty garbage, but I imagine from a research perspective, it might actually be like helpful to get a lot of like garbage experiments done very quickly, like while you're sleeping, and then come in and you can be like, okay, there's no way to falsify that. Like, okay, that one actually just straight up doesn't work. Okay, so now I've narrowed down kind of the actual paper that I want to write and what experiments I should perform that were apparently, while I was sleeping, which is helpful.
Oh, and also just let me just quickly say, Sakana is AI scientist. So I think Sakana is the company and
Sakana
AI
is
scientist is the product, just to make sure no one's confused there. Yeah. Right. I also just really like the example here that yikes.
This is in fact how you use AI, ladies and gentlemen. They are really dumb interns that are drunk half the time. They never tired or bored.
So yeah, when I was trying to basically just pick Yikes' brain to try and figure out how he's using it here, this came out, and I'm very glad I screenshotted it. So this is the end of what I have to show. There were a couple of the questions I wanted to go, like examining GPT Researcher's multiple retriever options, comparing the writing processes of the three, or like looking at how AI scientists actually performing the experiments. I didn't get time to do those. Each of these have configuration options. I have the slide. Don't think I really need to say anything more about that. If anyone wants this, I can send this to them. Otherwise, I think Warren, you have a demo for us, and I can stop sharing the screen.
I do. I don't know that I have much of a demo. What I was hoping to have figured out was the human in the loop version of GPT Researcher, because I think in terms of things that are actually useful and mostly autonomous, I would really like to like try that out, because that's basically what I use it for right now, which is like generate me a bunch of like crap reports, and then if I need more information about a different topic while I'm reviewing report A, I can just send it off to go make reports like B, C, and D. So it would be nice to be able to just stop it and be like, okay, so those last 10 links you grabbed, like half of them are garbage. Do the search again. Next section. Which I think would be, like, to me, that sounds like it would be like a pretty solid workflow. It would save me a lot of time. And then especially because you could integrate that with some of the other like research tools that I went over last week. Like I'm imagining a workflow where I am sort of generating articles on the side and putting them into Notebook LM, and then managing context to keep like condensing down until I get information that's pretty relevant. But I think what I could do is share the one of the reports that I used at work, which is the output from a run of GPT Researcher itself. And and then I can also have one running in the background, just kind of off the default GPT Researcher. Let's see, this is 3000. Oh, and then yeah, we could show what I've got already is. So I think this needs to go. Yeah, this.
Just so you know, you're not sharing your screen yet.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm putting my brain together here. What I'm going to do is I will start off by sharing my Obsidian here. Should work there. And then actually, you know what might be helpful is I have my smarts. That will work. Okay, cool. Then I probably should. Oh wait, this is gonna work. Okay, I was gonna try and use my other handy little thing. So makes that work. This thing that I am thinking of is if I were to be able to actually get it. Let's see, will that work? To cooperate. Okay, cool. So I have in my Obsidian vault, I have a report from GPT Researcher. A lot of this is not particularly relevant and largely false. So one of the things that I need to do for work right now is I'm doing like community management for a Web3 program. We needed like an ambassador / community mod kind of thing. Like I have, oh yeah, good question. I have a K-ball can't see me. Can anyone else see? Nubik cannot. Frickster can. I can drop off and jump back up if that is full. Okay, I see a lot of cannot, so let me leave and rejoin and see if and then we will share and we will do this live there. Go there. I find that it's often like a split. Okay, so I've got it back up here. How are we? We're doing okay? Okay. Let me just quick the states autonomous AI research agents will implement me a detailed report and then give me an informative tone and search web. Go for it. Good. Might not be me. Yeah. Hold please, I swear I will be your search. Okay. Let's refresh that. So we're back. Informative research. It is researching. Maybe I should share my screen. Let's see the yikes screen. I am so excited. Okay, cool. So this is a GPT Researcher Report. I had to build a ambassador program. I haven't done it myself before. I've been in a few good ones, so I kind of know what I'm looking for. But the main thing that I wanted was a bunch of good examples of well-implemented sort of community mod programs, et cetera, et cetera. So I had some like discussions with Claude about a general like framework of like, hey, just like, you know, spit me out, do some chain of thought and spit me out what you think is a good model for an ambassador program. Have built, yeah, I would love some help. That sounds awesome. We should pick up on that later. But so this was a report from GPT Researcher, and this has a link to Polygon's ambassador program. Let me see if I can. It's not going to open for you guys, but let me just double check and see what I think of. Yes. So when I click this link that it provided, Polygon.technology. Oh, there's a reader. Feel like okay. So the page that it's referencing there, I'm just going to show that so you kind of have an idea of what the source might look like if you are this. So this is the source that it's making those claims from. As you can see, there's not a ton of information directly on this page. So I'm immediately kind of a little suspicious about what that is. So I'm just sort of like reviewing the headers there just to make sure that like that tracks, and then I'll go take a look at what it was actually saying. And then the other thing that works, the reason that this works, or a thing that I have found helpful as a supplementary is I use a plugin called Smart Connections in Obsidian, where when I'm looking at an article here, then I have, and the rest of my vault is embedded, and then I have a similarity score for the article that I'm looking at. So since my vault already has other stuff in it that I researched manually or I tagged as a GPT researcher thing that is automated, then I can sort of quickly look to the side and see if there's information in here that actually backs this up. So these are like some notes that I actually made, and it's like, okay, these are some notes from the call, so I can cross-reference that with that, and then kind of be in better shape. So so this will generally start with a table of contents. I think I found a lot of times what I'll find is with GPT-R and I think less often Storm, the sources it pulls will be outdated. And it may be that it's reading different information than what the current like URL that it provided, like if there's a redirect or some sort of like update. I haven't like really dug in to make sure that that I'm seeing the same thing be seeing. But yeah, so then I have, okay, like I know this general sources, so I'm going to see like a third web, and then I can click on that to check and make sure that that is actually a thing. I think one of these things is not a thing anymore. I think it's the 1,000 validators is not a thing. And then we have like a Alchemy developer relations program. While developer relations is an internal position, whereas a like community mod is not a dev role. So that is, I'm like, okay, this probably won't be that relevant. Also, I am technically an Alchemy ambassador, so I know that one already. So what I would love to do is if I had a human in the loop, then I would be watching it do this, and I could just tell it like, hey, I'm already in that program, research it. So there are specific Obsidian plugins that support this, or you had to hack it manually. Yes, this plugin I would highly recommend. It is called Smart Connections, and it does a number of things. Primarily, what embeds your vault, and then you can chat with your vault, and then it also does this thing you're seeing on the side, which is the more useful part of it, I find, because the recall on the whole vault isn't good. But yeah, so this is sort of the general picture, and then yeah, it's helpful to like see other related reports, and then we have, as you see, kind of another table of contents. Okay, we've got Yahoo Finance links. These are probably going to be like not helpful. And then we have some of this other stuff, and I believe this is GPTR as well, although I don't have it tagged. I have it tagged as Research GPT. I wonder if there was another one I used to use. But so that is what a GPT Researcher Research Report looks like. And then while that was running, and as you can see, this is sort of case for why these sort of research agents can be useful, even if half the things that they are putting out are bullshit. Because while I was reading that one, I generated this one. So this is the hosted version of Storm. And this is Storm's sort of process of what it did to make this sort of wiki article. So you can see the process here of as we mentioned, we have the personalized, what was the term that they used? It was like persona guided generation or something like that, I think. But you can see the different personas that are generated here. So in terms of the Storm model, it looks like they have 3 persona guided generations, and then we have sort of the research questions, and then we're going to hear the answer from each of these sort of personas. And then it looks like we have the basic fact writer over here of research agents in the production process. So yeah, so I think this is just sort of a non-role prompted one, which I am presuming, and I think I remember that from paper, where the basic fact writer is to try and prune the results down where it is focused on sort of like getting rid of the hallucinations. So we have a summary at the top. We can grab it as a PDF, and then yeah, so we have multi-agent systems. So all of these 3 that we're going over today are all multi-agents, and then technically are they all? Yeah, Storm. Well, yeah, Storm should fit because they all use multiple personas, I believe, except maybe Sakana. I'm not % sure. But as you can see, these are not really things. User research agents, I don't know too many of those, but maybe I just don't know about them. So let me click on that. At which tools do research analysts use? We have this from TLHQ, and as you can see, there's a nice little up, like this. I like this UX better than I like the other one. I don't think obviously come in the PDF, but it's nice to have this like right in line. And then the other kind of key difference with Storm is that we have multiple references here for a given section, as opposed to section, source, section, source, which can be good and can be bad. Kind of go either way. And then we get a little table of contents here. The Storm articles are actually quite long. I think they're about, I forget what the numbers are exactly, but it's like somewhere around 50 cents to do the whole loop, I think, with like a Claude or 4.0 or what have. But this is just sort of a hosted. You can go to this URL, which I'll chat real quick. You can go to this URL and can use their hosted version for free. I believe it's just llamas that are doing it, but yeah, I don't recall who Compute is sponsored by. So yeah, we have a good little breakdown of all of this stuff, and then I can grab the PDF, and then at the front you can say like human AI collaboration mode. I would like that to be happening. I checked into the repo and I did not see it, so presumably that will be in the hosted version once it's actually in repo, but there might be some time lag too. And then average research takes 2 minutes. Yeah, so they have a cheap mode essentially. So while Storm was researching, I also had GPT-R running to do the same kind of research. So this was the process up here for GPT-R, which we have, okay, here's my research questions. I'm going to generate 1 agent, and then I'm going to start researching, as opposed to Storm, which I believe generates all of the agents first and then sort of tries to collate it down. So I get the URLs for all the sources, and then we are looking for relevant information across those. Then we have a source. And then does this have... Okay, yeah, so then we're listing all the content from all of the sources. I don't know if this is the entire content that the agent sees. That's how I would do it, but that's how they output here. So we get to sort of see a good amount of in-depth process. And yeah, the other nice thing about GPT-R is that it's really easy to sort of change your search sources. We don't quite have that nice little pop-up window that Storm does, so the UI over here is a little bit better actually, which is, considering it's the research version, interesting that they've got this UX UI dialed in more, which is nice. But we do have, so another sort of, I guess, thing to point out here is, since like this is a topic that I'm fairly familiar with, so I know these names: Auto, AGI, Cog Agent. Although Cog Agent doesn't really ring the bell, so I'm interested. So here's the example of like, it's nice to have this sort of like random entropy roll through vaguely related things to see if it catches anything haven't found before. So we have a paper here, which is, we have sort of like intro section, And I think we need a little bit of work on the markdown stuff. Exceptional long-term memory systems, decision, action layer. So yeah, this seems like it's pretty decent to me. But yeah, the formatting is not super great. Let's see. And then, yeah, unfortunately, I don't good example of Sakana because I couldn't really get it up and running. Right? But yeah, I would be interested to, or I guess what I can show really quick is it has its examples. Yeah, so these are all the papers that it generated. And then you can also go into, like, just going through this repo is kind of fun because you can see the example papers and then, like, there is a lot of material here. So we have, like, CSVs, we have a whole data set, we have the experiment.py here where we can see the whole thing. So this is like, to me, I think it's actually probably safe to say that this is a lot more involved than a process like GPTR or Storm is. And yeah, you get the full log output like you would over in the other two, and then you sort of have some separated out stuff where, okay, so here's some ideas, here's some, like, this is how I'm going to plan out my paper, and then you can see that it rates it on interestingness, feasibility, novelty, novel, true, false, etc., etc. And then I think there was another interesting part because some of them, yeah, so we have it also, like, it'll generate the graphs here as well. So we have, like, this was a sort of data augmentation and grokking thing. We can see the experiments, and let me check the ideas. I want to figure out what this is about. Assessing the impact of training batch size on the grokking fin. And then we have a log here. Based on the proposed experiment, I will plan this. Okay. And then we have our review, which is sort of, so yeah, they really tried to, like, encapsulate the whole peer review process into this sort of one thing. And then, yeah, we also have the graphs and such. That I think there's one that has, like, just a ton of text files somewhere. But I am not finding it immediately. So, yeah, I guess I will. Inclusion in the generated. Yeah, so there's a lot of LLM barf all the time. Cog BLM. Is that actually the same thing it's referenced? Was it GPTR? So let me pop back over here. It's Cog Agent Visual Language Model for GUI agents. Have SUDM Cog BLM. Interesting. Okay, Open Visual Language Model. So yeah, as you can see, oh shoot, I wonder if I get, oh, I do. Oh, but then my report is gone, I think. Oh well, you can always generate another one, which is the kind of the handy part. And then, yeah, so I would say my findings for this is, like, mostly they are useful. Obviously, they're not full on, like, replacements for researchers yet, but I don't expect them to be that. As I mentioned, the general frame that I have for most agentic systems right now is drunk intern that tries art. But yeah, so I guess that is largely the findings, and yeah, we can definitely, like, expand on thing as particular questions about, I suppose. Check this thread. AI scientist. I didn't go do some Twitter. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, we got a decent break. Is its out good? My immediate counter argument is no, and it probably shouldn't. Like, it is a. I think Devin was kind of, like, sold as, like, this is a no, K-Ball, I can't hear you. You look muted on Discord. But yeah, I think Devin was very much, like, marketed as, like, hey, this will replace software engineers. You should give us bajillions of dollars, opposed to Sakana, which based on the GitHub README, I think they're kind of in line with how I'm thinking about it, where it's like, hey, like this will execute random code. Please put it in a container. As you can see, all of these papers are entirely bullshit, but it did generate them and do experiments on them. But yeah, maybe the Twitter post is a little more markety. So yeah, my assessment immediate, like without reading the thread at all, of course, is like, yes, the output is not good, but it's not supposed to. And then yeah, Frick just posted some limitations and challenges here.
Am I audible now?
You are now, K-Ball. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I had a couple questions actually that might be interesting to dive into here, though with conscious, we only have 5 minutes. So if there are other questions that people have, put them in chat.
Right.
So one was, so with this mental model of these things are drunk interns, two kind of directions on that. One is like, what exactly do you do to filter afterwards? Like you were giving a little bit, but like if you can flesh out the process of like, how are you filtering down to what's actually useful here? Is there any way to automate that, or is it extremely manual? And I guess the other question is, how do you think about what domains for which a drunken intern is actually a productivity boost versus a rabbit hole that's going to make things take longer?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think probably my answers to both of those are largely going to be disappointing, which is mostly it's vibes. But yeah, it's some sort of like structure around how I've thought about it is like, okay, if it's a field I know basically nothing about, then what I probably do is I'm using this as sort of an extended Google search, and that Google search that I'm doing, quote unquote, is me just reading the headlines of it. So it's more a mental model than anything, and it's basically just like take this with a massive grain of salt, but if there's any interesting ideas that you want to verify while you're reading a report. So like if swap back over to my little port here. So in terms of like, is this factual information? I think generally like my perspective on it is like, just assume that almost none of it is, unless you want to go like manually hunt it down and verify it, or you already know it. So it is, I think the use case, or a couple of the good use cases, either you know nothing about the field and you just want an overview article that you are sort of permitting yourself to be very skeptical about, and then like chase down any leads that are actually interesting to verify them, or you're actually like quite familiar with the field and you just want to do like a little like a dice roll essentially to see comes across anything that's related to the topic that you're interested in that you like haven't discovered on your own essentially. But yeah, so like for in this case, like I'm familiar with like container orchestration, I'm familiar with a lot of these services, and then so like if I'm reading something like, okay, sure, like we have an increase in market cap, but market cap in crypto is super weird and basically not relevant. And okay, like cool, we have a centralization risk, we can scale quicker, I already knew that. Decentralized AI ML, so these are like generic, all things that we've already thought about. We have okay, here's an idea, enabling peers to communicate via RPC calls. Okay, maybe what I would want to do there is go check in with engineering and be like, hey, like, so since we have this network of peer-to-peer registration nodes, what do we think about like enabling some communication between the nodes, and what can we do with that? So that's like, I'll hand that off to someone who has more expertise to go sort of chase that down if they think it's relevant, and if they don't, or if they want, some more research done on it, then I'll go like probably some of the other tools from the other to go into it. So this, and then yeah, so I believe for this report I specifically asked for overlooked opportunities, just partially because like I find when using the models, like they're good for brainstorming because they have that sort of hallucinatory tendency. So like if you ask them to come up with weird stuff, they'll often come up with weird stuff. And when you need weird stuff to go like see what sort of edge you can grab in a disruptible market, get some weird concepts like this, which is like, oh yeah, like the possibility of a CDN that is just made up of like a ton of peers is actually kind of interesting, provided you could like, secure it and make sure none of the peers are acting maliciously. which is like, okay, sure, I could check that fact if I want to, but mostly it's like, okay, I can just read that that is an idea of a thing, and I might want to go chase it down. Okay, I know what this is. I might be interested in finding out how many of these there are and what sort of how they're performing against the product that we're offering. And then, yeah, so one of our main competitors is somebody who's offering decentralized API and RPC services. And this is interesting to me. So we have like a do-it-yourself peer-to-peer network of CI/CD deployment option. So yeah, it's a good like shotgun kind of brainstorm effect. But yeah, I in terms of
So
like,
I think what I'm hearing from you, honestly, is that's like most useful in domains where you actually already have a fair amount of domain knowledge, and you're saying, "Hey, I want to kind of it's the common LLM thing. I want to solve my blank page problem. I want to get a whole bunch of stuff to dump in here to like get me going and thinking about things, and maybe jumping off down different things. But it's not going to be very useful in a domain that is new to me."
I would say it is, yeah, so it's either or. Like if you have a shallow understanding of a field, like that's what you're going to get probably, and maybe something else to go further. If you have no understanding, then you can get a shallow understanding quickly. Or if you have a deep understanding, then you might find some things you missed. But that would be the kind of primary use cases, I would say.
Awesome. We are just about at time, so I do want to wrap. Thank you, Yikes and Frickster, for putting this together. Appreciate you both. We don't have too many people left in the audience at this point, but I will throw our classic spreadsheet out for speakers and ideas for next week. I don't think we have anything right now. So if somebody has a topic they're excited about, wants to jump in, do that. I will have to put out the call in the channel. But yeah, this is fun and interesting. Thank you. I actually find it, it's really helpful to have these conversations, even when like I'm looking at this and saying like, there's actually not that many use cases where I personally want to use it, but that is a huge step forward from having to go and figure that out for myself and do a bunch of testing. So like, even in those negative cases, I think it's super valuable. And in a case where now I know, oh, if I do run into a situation where this is the domain, like now I know the tools to go to. So yeah, appreciate you both.
Yeah, I think the other thing to, at least for me in doing this, is like there's some sort of obvious, like if there's a place where you can smash all these together, and I think it's something useful, or like some places that are where it's definitely messing up that like you could correct and then do some interesting. So I'll drop off the links to at least 3 repos, and then any other random links in the active section. Yeah, glad it was useful. For
Amazing.
us.
Thank you. It looks like we do have a speaker for next week. Manuel is filling the gap as so common. Amazing. All right.